Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. Unfortunately, I can't review the figures that we're going to talk about today because I don't have them. These are my action figure white whales. Like Captain Ahab from the classic Moby Dick, these are the action figures that I continue to hunt that just plain drive me crazy. Some people refer to them as holy grails, but I tend to think of a holy grail figure as a figure that does not yet exist that I hope one day will. Call them grails, call them white whales, call them whatever you want, but the one thing you can't call them is part of my collection. These are my top 10 action figure white whales. Starting off with number 10, we have a Uatu the Watcher from Marvel Select. For those of you who do not know, Marvel Select is a line of 7-inch scales produced by Diamond Select Toys for the direct market. These figures are a little bit bigger, a little bit less articulated, and a lot harder to find. And few Marvel Select figures are harder to find than a Uatu the Watcher. But unlike a lot of the other figures on this list, there is hope. Thanks to the Marvel What If series on Disney+, Diamond Select is re-releasing him. So for all of you out there who wanted him also and maybe missed out, here is your chance. Hopefully. Number 9, DC Collectibles DC Essentials Reverse Flash. The Flash that I use for my collection is the DC Essentials Flash, which I think is one of the best Flash figures ever made. When they made him, they also made a Reverse Flash. That Reverse Flash figure sat on my comic book store shelf for months, and now you can't get that thing for less than $100 on eBay. I did, however, put this figure fairly low on the list for a similar reason to a Uatu the Watcher. McFarlane Toys unveiled its first promotional picture of its own Reverse Flash. Don't get me wrong, I would much rather have the DC Essentials version because, well, it matches the Flash that I already have, but for $20 retail, I think I'll enjoy this one just fine. Moving on to number 8, we're going to be sticking with the Flash with the Mattel DC Multiverse Signature Series 1990s Flash from the John Wesley Ship TV series. I really appreciate what the current CW series has managed to do to honor that version, but I really love the figure that Mattel made for their DC Multiverse Signature Series. I even once held it in my hands in a GameStop and I put it back. Why? Because I figured I'd just get it next time. Now it goes anywhere from $150 to $250. Speaking of retro things, that brings us to number 7. The Marvel Legends Retro Cards Series 2. These are the gray cards that recreate the 1990 Marvel superhero figures from Toy Biz. The collection included Black Panther, Vision, Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Wasp, and Scarlet Spider. And for the longest time, that entire wave was discounted on both eBay and Amazon for $89. $89, and I could have had the whole shebang. Now, you can barely get an individual figure from the wave for that amount. At this rate, who knows if and when my Avengers will ever truly be able to assemble. And speaking of the Avengers assembling, that brings us to number 6, the Hasbro Marvel Legends 80 Years Captain America. This figure was inspired by the art of Alex Ross, and like far too many Captain America figures, was a Walmart exclusive. I did have an opportunity where I could have ordered him from Walmart for only $20, and I didn't do it because I figured I'd find him on the shelf eventually. To this day, the only 80 Years Captain America that I've ever held in my hands was at a toy show for $75, but he averages online for $80. Pretty much $1 a year. Moving on to number 5, we have another action figure collection, and this one has a roller coaster of a backstory. The DC Dark Horse 2-packs from NECA Toys. The collection was going to be a series of 3 2-packs: Superman vs. Aliens, Batman vs. Predator, and Batman vs. a Joker alien. I can't remember the last time I had been so excited for an action figure release, and then they were canceled. Although NECA never explained it publicly, there was an issue with one of the license holders that prevented those figures from being sold at retail. There was, however, eventually a light at the end of the tunnel. NECA figured out some kind of workaround and we're going to be releasing them as exclusives for San Diego Comic-Con and also New York Comic-Con. Some of them showed up in Walmart, but for the most part, they all really went straight to eBay. Now, you can't get a single one of those sets for less than $150. what could possibly hurt my heart more in the world of action figures and also aliens than that? Number 4, Vasquez, Hudson, and O'Malley from the Kenner Alien series. Like many a dead toy line before it, the final assortment of Space Marines were released as UK exclusives. Kenner did try to soften the blow by offering repaints of those figures as 2-packs for a KB Toy exclusive, but it just wasn't the same as those colorful originals, any one of which will now set you back about $350. Number 3, A Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror franchise and Freddy Krueger my favorite monster. Throughout the years, various companies have had the license to Nightmare on Elm Street. LJN, McFarlane Toys, Medicom, Mezco, and NECA, just to name a few. This particular figure, however, was not made by one of those license holders. It was instead a bootleg figure made by a company called Sungold as part of their monster line. Sungold, for those of you who do not know, was actually famous for a series of He-Man knockoffs called Galaxy Warriors. Their monster line sought to continue that tradition by creating bootleg figures of popular monsters. Trying desperately to avoid copyright infringement, Sungold swapped Freddy's familiar color scheme out for red, white, and blue, making him look like an evil Waldo. On top of that, they gave him his own unique name, Sharp Hand Joe. If you manage to spot a Sharp Hand Joe loose on eBay, it normally goes for about $100. In card, however, it can go anywhere from $300 upward. Number 2, the Marvel Legends HasLab Sentinel. Clocking in at 26 inches, the X-Men enemy came with lights, swappable heads, and extra figures. The Sentinel was a HasLab exclusive, which is pretty much Hasbro's own personal Kickstarter, and so it was made to order. If you didn't get it when it was offered, you simply weren't going to get it. Long story short, it was 2020, and thanks to the pandemic, I was out of work. I'm sure I'll finally see them on eBay and at toy shows when they finally do come out, but I think we both know that if I couldn't afford them for retail, I definitely will not be able to afford the aftermarket. So, between $400 bootleg Freddy Krueger figures and UK exclusive aliens from the mid-90s, what could possibly be my number 1 white whale? Terry Dodson Wonder Woman from DC Direct. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Jason, how could that be your number 1 white whale? You could get it right now on eBay for about $70, and you would be right. But do you also remember the part where I said that white whales were kind of like Captain Ahab hunting down Moby Dick? The reason why it drives him so crazy is because he came so close. And my Moby Dick moment came with that action figure many years ago in a wonderful little comic book store near my house that sadly no longer exists. They also had a discount room where they clearanced out action figures and comic books. I was in that discount room many years ago where I held it in my hands, clearanced out for $12. But I didn't get it because at that point I wasn't all that into Wonder Woman and I had no idea just how expensive it would eventually become. I hope you've enjoyed this list of my top 10 action figure white whales. Sound off in the comments and tell me about yours. Let's have a conversation. Also, don't forget you can now follow 5POA Figure Reviews on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.